So I'm going to take you guys on a long trip. It starts, with everything that we've been doing, and it goes into the future. But you have to set things up, and to understand what we do with this channel, you got to kind of understand me, right? I'm a person, I value freedom more than anything else. Options, right? I want my options. It's more important than money. It's more important than anything. Freedom is everything. And in order to attain that freedom, I've always maintained, and this is, listen, if you're a young guy, okay, you're in your 20s or even your 30s and you're watching this and you're like, gee, this is the kind of life that I want, right? Pay very close attention to this because this is super important. All right. I operate on basically a system of like primal urge. I get an idea in my head to do something and I don't think about it, I lunge. And when I say I lunge, I mean I'll have an idea and within an hour or two, that idea is in motion. But the reason I'm able to do that, and the reason I've been able to do as many things in my life as I have, I've had many shops, I had a string of coffee houses, I did the magazines, I did the Nitro thing. The reason I've been able to do, and YouTube, the reason I've been able to do all of these things is because all through my life, I've always maintained my home shop, okay? No matter what I've done, no matter what I've gotten into, I always had my tools and a place to work and basic supplies of auto repair, because no matter what I got into, no matter how over my head I got, no matter what, I could always come back to ground zero, and within a couple of weeks of just networking and talking to people, I could restart a business. And I've done this many times through the course of my life. I could restart a business out of my home garage and pay the bills, put food on the table, keep the lights on. Very important. I can't begin to stress, if you're a young guy, how important that is. That ability to just pick up and go and then restart if you have to is everything. That's what gives you your options, and options equal freedom. And that's what I've done. No matter what, I'd open a shop, I'd go buy tools for that shop. I'd never touch the ones I had at the house. I needed bolt bins and whatnot. I never touched the one I kept at the house. I would always expand and grow into the next phase. So that's the distant past. But what I want to do is we're in the process of growing this channel to another level. So I wanted to give you guys an insight on exactly what the methodology is of all of this and where we're going, what we plan on doing. So one of the things I did for many years through the 80s and the 90s was I did magazines. I was a writer, I was an editor, I was a packager. I did everything from monster truck books to Mopar books. My pet was a magazine called Cars Illustrated, and that later got spun off into Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords, which I know a lot of you guys know. I enjoyed doing the basic work, but I always hated the industry. The industry killed me because the industry put more value on the advertiser than it did on the consumer. So the industry was all about selling you parts, pushing the next upgrade, the next greatest thing, instead of teaching the basics, instead of like nurturing, from the bottom up. So I always hated the industry, even though I mastered the industry. I was good at it. But I hated it. So I stopped and I went into other things, in and out of many different businesses and situations. All of them worked out well. Even the things that didn't work out taught me stuff, gave me different skills, different mindset, allowed me to go to the next level, the next step. And so let's bring us up to the current, right? The world of Uncle Tony's Garage and where it's going. So our journey starts here, in that building. That was Mid-South Mopars. So what happened was I was driving down the road, this is 5 years ago, and a for rent sign caught my eye. So I said, let me check this out. So I went and looked at the building, and it was like 3,500 square feet inside, and a beautiful lot, lots of space. So I said, I'll take it. It was that fast. So we started a business called Mid-South Mopars, and it was doing great. We were turning cars out, we were turning engines out. I had a full-time guy, Eric Stubinger. Wild Bill's character named Wild Bill was a helper. And we turned a lot of stuff out. Business was doing great. The one downside to it, though, was that it was on a month-to-month lease, or a month-to-month rent. Couldn't get a lease signed on it. But I says, all right, it's no big deal. There's no signs that there's any change imminent. Well, little did I know, the landlord had the place for sale the whole time, and it ended up getting sold out from under me. We operated here for almost 2 years, and I had 30 days to get out. What do you do, right? I ended up having to scrap 56,000 pounds of metal because I had no place to put it, and I couldn't get anybody to take it, and I had no time. 56,000 pounds. We were out of business. So I start looking for another shop in the area, and so we're in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and this place is just growing like crazy. There are no commercially viable spots in the area. What are we gonna do? So luckily we had some cash saved up. So we were able to coast for just a little while and figure out what the next step was gonna be. So on an off chance, Uncle Kathy comes up with the suggestion of doing a podcast. Podcast, huh? Okay. A podcast, eh? You know, that's not a bad idea. And along these lines, I'm saying to myself, you know, with all of the new media, with all of the different options that are out there, maybe it's time to get back in to the magazine thing and pick up where we left off, only this time we can be completely autonomous and I don't have to cater to advertisers and ignore the bottom feeders. So I said, you know, this could work. And we did. We took the spare room in our house and we turned it into a studio, a podcast studio. And I had a few friends, carburetor guru Eric Jackson, Ron Ward, Jovial J. Renschke, and we put together a podcast called Uncle Tony's Garage. And that was actually the artwork for the podcast. So we had fun with it. It was a blast. We did probably 15 or 20 episodes, but it was going nowhere. I mean, we had it on every podcast carrier, what do you call it, podcast carriers? You don't remember? We couldn't get any traction with it. But at the same time, we also had a Facebook page going. And the Facebook page was growing. We did a lot of memes and stuff like that. And then we tried a video, because we tried a couple of videos. And one of them took off like crazy on Facebook. This is it. Here's everything you need to know about an Edelbrock carburetor in under a minute. With the engine idling, check these. They should be all the way down. If they're bouncing up and down, put a lighter spring in. If the car runs rich, put in a thicker rod. If it runs lean, put in a thinner rod. If you need more than that, you'll have to take the top of the carburetor off and dig the jets out. If you can't get an adjustment out of the idle mixture screws, the problem is here. To fix it, pull a bristle from a wire brush. Then use it to poke through all of the small passages in the booster body. Finally, if it's flooding gas over the top, you've either got more than 7 pounds of fuel pressure or you've got some schmutz stuck in the needle and seat valve. Take it apart and clean it out. So that video took off on Facebook. It wasn't intentionally, that was the best we could come up with. I was super uncomfortable in front of the camera. My ADD kicks in and I can't remember one line past another. So we shot a bunch of videos that were like that, where it was just like a minute or 2 minute video with a bunch of edits and I just spit stuff out as fast as I could. If I tried to talk slowly, I would lose track of what I was saying. It was like really bad. But like I said, that one took off on Facebook. The problem was now, Facebook wasn't paying any money. And if we're going to do this professionally, we're not making any money with the podcast, and we're not making any money with Facebook, let's try YouTube. So that's what we did. We took some of the videos that we had done for Facebook, and we put them over to YouTube, and we started grabbing subs, like right off the bat. We went fast. It was only about 2 or 3 months before we had our first 1,000 subscribers. And we had our 240,000 minutes of watch time, which seems like a lot, 240,000 minutes, but you know what? It goes fast. So with that, we were able to monetize. And then we really hit it hard. We hit it as hard as we could. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're going to get this channel, Uncle Tony's Garage, going, and then from that we're going to spin off other things under the UTG banner. So I envisioned a bunch of different channels covering a bunch of different topics, but mostly UTG, Uncle Tony's Garage, this channel you're watching now, is intended to be like a magazine. It's not, and it's structured like a magazine. We don't do one particular topic or one particular, we'll do a tech piece, we'll do an engine piece, we'll do a history piece, we'll do a personality piece, we do it, and so we try to keep it well-rounded and well-balanced, so it's like a general interest magazine. But in the meantime, you still have to do tech. Tech is important, and to do tech, you need a viable place to work. So we did a couple of videos here in the driveway and in the garage, but trying to produce videos in a subdivision when people are coming and going and dogs are barking and not good. So I had that lot. I had a lot that was part of a parts business that I had previous to opening the shop, and I kept the lot. So that's where we started shooting our tech stuff. So about 2 years ago, we started shooting the bulk of our videos back here in this back lot. And we did a lot of stuff here, but the working conditions are definitely less than ideal. It did fit that everyman theme though, meaning like if we could do it, you could do it. So we worked on gravel, and during the summer we sweated, and during the winter we froze, and we've got the swamp that would come and flood us during and then the mosquitoes and the wasps and you just name it. This is like an attack of fucking nature, right? And the compressor that's always going off in that building. So I said, you know what? We need some indoor spots. So a quad unit has become available here in this complex. And one of the other problems with, and it still exists to this day, of getting anything done here, is that if you want to move one thing, you have to move like 4 other things. And at any given time, what's got a flat, what's got a dead battery, what's got a wheel that's locked up, what's out of gas. So constant hassle. It's 3 steps sideways to take 1 step forward. So we grabbed this quad unit over here, and this is what you guys have come to know as Uncle Tony's Garage. And again, the environment is a little rough. When it rains, this all floods. When it's dry, the dust is crazy. Like bad. It's almost impossible to keep anything clean. And believe it or not, I used to be a clean freak. Uncle Kathy can vouch for this. My shop used to be like surgical. But you can only work with what you've got. So this area served us really well. We took a car from the scrapyard, turned it into a running, functional, driving thing. We did all the body work and paint and rebuilt the engine on the Daily Driver Swinger. We did the body and the paint on the Duster here. We did the engine for our Plan Z Dart. We accomplished a lot of stuff in a very short period of time in this area, and it served us so well. But again, you see, the basic issues. They're storage units. They're not really built for this. There's no running water here. The dust is always going in this way. The water, when it rains, comes this way. The shop floods. Everything's constantly in a state of like rust, and it's very difficult to work like this. So we decided if we're going to actually be really serious and we're going to take this thing to the next level, we're going to have to do something about our general environment. So it happened again last week. I'm driving on the road and I see a for rent sign. Let me check this out. So I pull in here, and it's the Future UTG World Headquarters. Well, within 2 hours of seeing the sign, there's money changing hands and deals being made, and it's ours. It's beautiful in there. High ceilings, epoxied floors, offices, separate areas where we can set up studios to do specific things. UTG is going to the next level. But it doesn't mean we're changing. I'm just as anti-establishment as I've ever been, if not more so. So we're definitely not going into a high-end thing. We're going to keep the character of the channel exactly the way it's been. We're going to keep the builds exactly the way they've been, except now we don't have to fight floods and pestilence and all sorts of other things. And I can actually wash the cars and keep the tools and the floors clean, which is something like, you know. So there it is. And there's also, see, the other thing with this is that it allows me to take the concept of UTG to that vision that I've always had for it, which is more like a production company, more like a publisher. So obviously we'll keep doing Uncle Tony's Garage the way we've always done it, but I have other spin-off channels that I'd like to get going. I'd like to try a podcast again. And this environment gives us the opportunity to do all of those things. So there it is. The next few weeks are going to be a little chaotic because we've got to disassemble everything we've got there, clean it, prep it, bring it over here, get everything all set up. So you'll probably see some erratic videos from us over the next few weeks while we get settled in here. But you know, we're ready to rock and roll. We're taking this thing all the way. You know, and I know a lot of you guys, you're worried. You're like, what if this happens? What if you can't cover the rent? What if you can't, you know? Let's go back to the beginning of this video. I have my garage and I have my tools and they'll be exactly there. And if this all comes apart, I'm more than happy to go back and start all over again. You know, the journey is its own reward, and what's life without its challenges? Right? Go big or go home. I'll see you tomorrow.